What's going on, workforce? Brian here, and today we're highlighting your comments from the Final Fantasy XIV Job Tier List video. We've got a lot to talk about, and I found a lot of great comments. There's so many that I wish I could cover them all, especially because as people put their own tier list in the comments below. But without further ado, I do want to make one ado, and that's be sure to check out Mioni's and Larry Sar's tier list video. Those are the ones that have already been out and the ones that I found. If you've made a tier list video yourself, please be sure to link it in the comments or make sure we have it on Discord. I'd love to check it out as a part of this just general conversation because it's always really insightful to see where people draw their inspiration from, where they resonate with what specific jobs. And so now that all that's out of the way, let's dive into what you guys had to say. So our first comment comes from Omar Ricardo. He says, this job tier list should be my favorite job list. You are ranking jobs based off your personal thoughts and no actual job performance. And Omar, you're 100% correct. We said that at the top of the video. That's what really kind of an opinion piece video is about. But there are several people who wanted something that's more based off the performances of the different jobs. And so we've taken that to heart. In fact, we've also been requested to kind of keep that going. And so where that comes down into my personal, what I enjoyed and what jobs I actually enjoyed playing by rank, we've definitely heard you loud and clear that people also want to see kind of the performance based off of the different casters, the tanks, and the DPS. But being that a lot of things are about to change, it doesn't make sense to actually run that list now because we're just 4 to 5 weeks away from the new expansion. So ultimately, yes, we are going to do that. And we might do that as patches and things change to see where things fall. So we'll get more technical with a video like that. And we'll probably title it, job ranking, power rankings, something like that, where it kind of fits into kind of the theme of what the video is, whether it's an opinion piece or whether it's like, these are the DPS numbers. Because when it comes down to the DPS, you're going to find some differences when it comes down to utility versus raw power, like Samurai, Black Mage versus that of a Red Mage, and what kind of content are you trying to do? Progression, or are you farming it? Because essentially, if we're doing progression, I would take a Red Mage or a Res Mage over a Black Mage. But if we're trying to farm it, I would absolutely take a Black Mage because they're just freaking amazing. And that all comes down to the understanding and the situation awareness, because any kind of time where you're dead and you're down, that's a total party DPS loss. So that's where some opinion might kind of fall into the power rankings. We'll have to find a good way to kind of highlight that in it. But yeah, that was absolutely what that video was. And I wanted to highlight that before we go into the rest of the comments. So thank you, Omar, for the comment, and thanks for watching the video. So Axl Rhys writes, as a monk main, I agree with you. This expansion didn't feel substantial to how it plays besides passive chakra. 4.0 Monk feels like a dead run to keep up with Samurai, who is just a jog when it comes to damage. When I leveled up Sam, I was so relaxed in the rotation and the Sin comparison to trying to keep up Grease Lightning and buff on Monk. I love Monk. I just hope it gets better in Shadowbringers. And I want to highlight Nazareth 1983 here. He says, well, 5.0 Dark is getting a complete rework since it's going to be the cover job for Shadowbringers. If history says anything, it will be S tier. I want to highlight Nazareth here just because it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be, because Monk was a part or a highlighted character for Stormblood, and thus a lot of people have been dissatisfied. A lot of people have loved it. It's really going to be about a personal preference here. Obviously, I did not prefer Monk whatsoever, and I'm hoping that Dark Knight is amazing. I actually really enjoyed what they were going with. I just missed a couple of skills, and I've said that before. I've missed Dark Dance. I thought that was going to be interesting. But with 4 tanks, it's going to be an interesting dichotomy, quadconomy, whatever we would say there, as the two different groups, or if they do focus on off tank and main tank. What does that mean for progression? What does that mean for farm? Ultimately, what does that mean overall for the game if we end up having still like one primary? We don't really know. I just hope that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Dark Knight and seeing that if it can find a better position and a better place within the gameplay itself. I loved Dark when it came out in 3.0. I went to Paladin in 4.0 because I love the changes they made there, and then ended up shifting to Warrior. So I've actually been, for each expansion, one of each of the tanks has kind of been my main tank. Who knows if it's going to be Gunbreaker this time around. So as far as it goes with Monk, I hope that it gets better. I want every job to kind of really feel interesting, and with going to level 80 with new skills, how does it relate to the controller? I'm not really personally concerned because I'm really interested and excited to kind of really go hands-on and see what this is. here just in a couple weeks. Cannot wait to share that news with you. But as far as it goes, I think ultimately I'm not putting any like I still subscribe to the idea that you should play more than one job, because if for some reason your main job kind of gets a little bit tweaked to a way you don't like it, it ends up being a lot less painful to easily jump into another job that might fit you better. And that could, at first I say kind of start with the roles, but the game has a lot of value in playing and having at least a handful, at least 4 to 5 jobs if you kind of try to keep those around level cap. Every expansion and any kind of patch, if they do any kind of job adjustments, you're not going to find yourself frustrated or ultimately disappointed. You will, might be a little frustrated or a little bit disappointed, but you're not completely saying like, oh, I got a level from 1 to cap with a whole new job, because now, that was interesting to me. So just kind of keep that in mind. Keep that as a part of your general gameplay budget, as a part of it. It doesn't have to be your main focus, but it does help to kind of chip away doing kind of your roulettes on alternate jobs, just to kind of keep them moving upwards and upwards. And if you pre-ordered, make sure you take advantage of that earring as well. So Bad Satan Claus says, I love the 16-bit job icons. Where did you get those? I can't seem to find them on the Google machine. So if you go out to the North American or the Lodestone, there is a fan kit, and that's where you can get access to those job icons. One thing I actually didn't think about doing, and somebody recommended it on the video, was saying that I used an old 8-bit Red Mage icon, and I could have gone into Palace of the Dead and been able to pick up a Red Mage icon, because for some reason that's actually not a part of the fan kit, even though they've updated it. Who knows if they're going to update it again with the new jobs as we go forward there, because obviously they'll have Palace of the Dead icons that we can use. So next time I will try to go and get the Palace of the Dead versions of those if they don't open those up to the fan kit. But go download the fan kit. It's free for everybody to use, and that's where I did that. But if you also want access to them, like I said, the link was in the description to that video for you to go and just download the PDF, PDFD, whatever, the Photoshop document to be able to use and make your own tier list, or use the art any which way you want, because again, it all came from Square in this case. So Behecken says, probably butchering that, I hope they add more Summoner Aggies for Summoner. I 100% agree. In fact, I'm actually really interested to see if and what they do ultimately with Summoner, because in this last expansion we got the ability to summon Bahamut, and we still have our same 3 pets. We've got Bahamut, we can turn them into Carbuncle. Yoshi P, something along those lines is coming, and we'll learn about it more in 5.0, and honestly it would be really cool to see us have more impact as summoners to how the job plays. Now I don't know what that means, we will find out until the live letter, but I'm personally looking forward to what they do with Summoner. And if it's not anything kind of like, wow, this is a whole different job itself, if it's nothing like that, ultimately I hope that we definitely get Aggies for all the different primals. It's something to farm, something to go and chase after, I think would be nice, because it doesn't break gameplay. It's just a cosmetic kind of function, and honestly it'd be really cool to see whatever they do with it. Like, go beat this fight 50 times and boom, now you can Eggy Glamour, Odin or something like that. Something crazy where it's like, I think that would be ultimately really interesting to see. So I'm with you 100%, and we'll find out hopefully here soon. Evangeliman, they say, says, they need to grow a pair and have all classes jobs start at level 1. Sure, have them level up to 50 at an accelerated rate at 2 times maybe. Honestly, I don't disagree with this. I do enjoy the fact that I can start a job at 16, I don't have to do a lot of that pregame. But one of the things I think Blue Mage was exciting to see with that job itself was how many people were actually out and about in the field. And so having these jobs kind of introduced there, it does accelerate people who want to play them into it, because the player, whether they spend times on the tooltips or not, that's ultimately going to be on them to decide. But being able to jump into the game, being able to jump in, does kind of affect a lot of the pregame, and it does make the world feel less alive, especially in the earlier stages. So I do agree with you that it would be nice to see these jobs start at level 1, and then you have the option to boost them if so desired, if you wanted to take that new job through the newest expansion. It is a give and take, because that is just my personal preference. I mean, it's not something that I'm campaigning for, though. level 1. But we'll have to see. I'm with you 100%. I think that would be it would be nice because I like the unlock conditions and then you can go and level it. But I'd love to know if anybody else has a different opinion and why they like it, where it starts. Really, for me, once 50 hits, there's a lot of content there. There's a lot of options there. So having something start at least 60 or something like that does feel a little weird, because it's like if they all started at 50, that'd be interesting. If they all started at 1, that'd be fine. I'm glad it's not 30, because 30 felt weird, but it is what it is. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Joshua Sullivan writes, I hope you continue this. I'd like to see your views on how they changed through 5.0. And thank you, Joshua. This is a fun take on obviously a hot meme where we kind of do it, because if you look at like the jobs themselves, I kind of put out an opinion piece once I finished the job, getting it capped and geared up and playing it at level 70 content for Stormblood. And pretty much this kind of was just a culmination of bringing back all the jobs and putting them together, as opposed to just kind of one opinion piece about it. So obviously the hot meme is fun because it's something that draws people's attention, and I think it's a really cool format. And so yes, I do plan on continuing this, and we'll probably have a couple of different styles of it, and maybe we'll see how to visually line that up, because ultimately there's the opinion about what I enjoy, and then there's the kind of the utility and the comparison about how people are playing the jobs and where they kind of fall in terms of power and how they stack up to each other. So we'll probably also put out, like I said earlier, a power rankings version, as well as a kind of the job tier list as well. So that's going to be kind of fun. We'll have to see how it goes. Who knows, we might be the only one doing job tier list after the meme is long since dead. But it's a really, I think, fascinating format. And obviously we already have the template. We would just have to add a couple more job images and we can go from there. So thanks for the comment, Joshua, and we definitely intend to keep this up. So Sky Knight says, aren't they getting rid of different types of debuffs like slashing, piercing, and blunt resistance down? Highly possible. Honestly, at this point, a lot of rumors flying around. We don't know anything specific. They could always get rid of them. They could always bring them back. Ultimately, we're just going to have to wait and see. Personally, I kind of like it, but I get how, not having kind of a counterpart can end up doing that. And there's pros and cons, because it's all like kind of a simple design philosophy, which where you go. Do you want to bring the player and not the class? Meaning like it's all about the individual player and doesn't really matter what they're on. Or do you want to bring the class, not the player? Meaning that the class that they're playing has specific strengths and weaknesses. Traditionally, I fall into the bring the class, not the player mindset versus the player and then the class, because you do have the ability to level up and do different things, but that is somewhat exclusive sometimes, and it can end up impacting you. Like, nobody really wants to find like, hey, we really don't want this content. We don't want black mages for this piece of content, because really ultimately Summoner does and performs better because of certain mechanics. It is a tough line to walk. It's a hard decision to be made, because ultimately there are trade-offs, within the development, within, how that all plays out. And so we're just going to have to leave it at that for now. But if they do get rid of them, I'm not going to be upset about it. It's not going to be foundationally a problem with, I feel, how the game plays. I think it could end up making it a little bit easier to kind of weave in different things and kind of see how it all structures. But we'll know soon enough about what all has changed with the battle system. And I'm looking forward to finding out and playing around in the new system. I know a lot of people might look at getting rid of the debuffs as like, oh man, they completely ruined this one job. But if they did that, the game is going to be balanced around that. Maybe all of that buff or that debuff is inherent through every encounter, like it's always on, so why just turn it off? Just kind of the same concept of why they remove Stone Skin and certain things like that. I do miss Stone Skin though, so we'll have to see what happens here in a few days. So the Ultimate Waifu says, I would put Blue Mage in F tier. The core of any MMO is endgame raids and instances. Since you can't queue with a Blue Mage and it's capped at 50, it's pretty much useless. And so, yeah, if that's what your endgame, if that's what you believe a core of any MMO experience is, then yes, Blue Mage, and that's what I replied to them, is like Blue Mage is an F if that's your core experience for any MMO in this case. I actually don't believe the tenet that the core of any MMO is endgame raids and instances. Actually, I don't subscribe to that whatsoever. I think it is a big important part of it, but it's not the core aspect. That does not mean that it is not the core for you watching this video or the Ultimate Waifu here, and that's not actually saying that just because if you think that's the core that you're wrong. Not by any stretch of the imagination. If you feel like the end game raid is the absolute core of your gameplay experience within 14, Blue Mage sucks. If you think for me, the core would be the social aspect. I like the sandbox style MMOs. I do enjoy the dungeons, but eventually I just kind of get worn out on them. I hope to see a little bit more sandbox brought into 14. Eureka is a good step in that direction, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, because I actually didn't like Eureka, and it wasn't because it was a sandbox. It was just because I felt like it lacked the certain tools that I needed to make my experience, especially for however limited or my time was, to not be essentially truly effective. And I didn't really like playing it alone. I like games. I like like I said, the social aspect. It for me is the core experience, being able to kind of get in and do all these different things. Honestly, I would define maps as one of the core tenets of 14, because that's content that it really resonates with me, and I hope to see them expand on that more. I'd like to see, like we've talked about, them combine all this classic dungeons and all this content they made with the Heaven on High and the Deep Dungeon system, kind of stack those together for its own unique content for ever scaling difficulty, because sometimes you can get 4 people, sometimes you can get 8 people, sometimes 24. So there's there's some goals there. But the reason why I like Blue is because it puts me out in the open world. I've long said that it's the core weaknesses, and I said in the video, it's that there is not enough content to kind of justify that. I love the open world, but because there's no merit point system, because there's no system in which that gaining XP past level cap makes any kind of sense, because there's no reason to go learn the skills again. Like if you learned a skill 1,000 times, could you glamour or change the visual style of it? Any and everything that kind of creates and gives players goals within the universe itself. That sandbox-iness, as my voice continues to crack. Oh joy. 3rd video in one day. That is what, I think that's where Blue Mage kind of falls short, because it doesn't necessarily, there isn't enough content that really justify the job. And I'm hopeful that over time that we're going to see that. Yoshi P's talked about how to make the open world more engaging. I think their map designs and their zones designs are just some of the best zones that we've seen, and Shadowbringers looks to even triple down on that design perspective. And hopefully I want to find things that keep me out of the world, having me engage in the world, whether it's on Blue Mage or another job, and keep, if I'm just idling at my house, not really doing much, or, gathering in and of itself is only so far interesting. That's just something that I personally would love to see. I'd love to see, Fates have relevance again. I'd love to see, again, there's nothing against instant content by any stretch of imagination. It's really good content that they have, but we, from a design perspective, they'll never be able to make enough content to satisfy us. But that's where we are. Anyway, thank you all so much for the amazing comments. Every little one. I love you guys all so much. Hopefully this has been fun. I hopefully you like our community feedback episodes, where we kind of dive into what you all have to say about everything that's going on with the game. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Be sure, we always look at these as well. Yeah, let us know your thoughts about this or anything we talked about. And if you're having any problems, just obviously like you're stuck, feel free to also check out our Discord server. We'd like to make sure that we can help you out with that. So without further ado, we've got probably lots of videos and conversations to have here going into Shadowbringers. I'm looking forward to going on this adventure with you. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care. What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today we're talking about what you all had to say about the Final Fantasy XIV Jobs Tier List video that we just did a few weeks ago. Not hard to find out, Brian. Like, when did I post that? I am a nerd who does not. Well, we post a lot. Let's see here. Tier list. It was May 15th. Okay, and today is what? The 21st. So last week. Perfect. All right. I was right the first time. Bah!